We told you that we could feel the all hell was going to break loose here tonight.
Don't tell me! Mamma mia! Mamma mia! Are you kidding me?
Batista and The Undertaker are two legendary names from the professional wrestling business, with both men putting together Hall of Fame careers. While the Dead Man was obviously around a lot longer than the Animal, both of them have made their mark and created moments and matches that will never be forgotten, and some of those happened together. Each man has been involved in some epic rivalries throughout their careers. For Batista, he had epic battles with the likes of Triple H and John Cena, while Undertaker had classics against Kane and Shawn Michaels throughout his time in the business. However, one of the best storylines that either man had in wrestling just so happened to be against each other. Back in 2007, The Undertaker won the Royal Rumble match and embarked on a journey that would create some of the greatest matches by challenging Batista for a match at WrestleMania. Despite having the option of Bobby Lashley and John Cena to pick from, and while he lined all three men up, it was the World Heavyweight Champion that the Dead Man wanted to compete against. However, before they could become rivals, the two men ended up working together, which is an unconventional way to start a feud. They competed as a tag team at No Way Out to compete against Shawn Michaels and Cena in a true dream match that packed a ton of star power. Taker and Batista made a formidable team due to their size and power, but the world champion opted to turn on his partner during the match. This planted the seed for their issues moving forward, with Batista attacking his partner as a callback to a previous issue they had on SmackDown. Undertaker had chokeslammed him and Batista promised he would get revenge, and he opted to do it on a big pay-per-view stage to really make a mark. The focus then turned to WrestleMania 23, and the two men put on an incredible match against each other. Of course, with his undefeated streak, it was Taker who walked away with victory, but Batista certainly pushed him to his limits throughout. They didn't even get the headline slot on the show, despite how hot both acts were. And that's something that fired up Batista. In an interview, Batista explains why he was upset about his WrestleMania 23 match against The Undertaker. "I was really upset that we weren't the main event. I just felt like we should have been. We deserved to be. We set some milestones with that. And I know with the exchange of the title and everything, it was just more significant of a match. And I also just felt like The Undertaker deserved that to be the main event and should have gone on last. So I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. It was John Cena and Shawn Michaels, I believe. And I just felt like we got robbed on that top spot and we should have had it. And I felt like our match speaks for itself. I think we had the match of the night, and I just felt like Taker should have been the last thing that people saw that night. So I had a chip on my shoulder, and I was a little bit out of shape that we didn't." After a great competitive WrestleMania match, the two men competed again at the following pay-per-view after Batista requested a rematch. He had it granted by Teddy Long, and this time they were allowed to take their physical styles to the next level, as was the last man standing match. Because both men were thriving here, WWE opted to extend things even more by having this end in a draw. It led to another match happening on an episode of SmackDown, this time inside a steel cage, but this one ended in a draw as well. Edge was then added to the mix because he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase, and Batista would then focus on the Radar Superstar for the next two pay-per-views, losing both matches. The second loss meant he was unable to compete for the world title again for as long as Edge held it, but because of an injury, he had to relinquish it, and Batista was able to capture his third title run during a forgettable storyline against the great Khali. However, WWE would circle back around to Batista and Undertaker after the Phenom made his return to the ring. Their feud continued as they competed against each other at Cyber Sunday, and this time Steve Austin was on hand to work as a special guest referee, adding even more star power to this encounter. This time, Batista was able to get his big moment against Undertaker by defeating him with multiple Batista bombs, and that then moved their storyline onto a Hell in a Cell match at Survivor Series. However, once again, Edge would get involved as he made his return and destroyed Undertaker with a concerto, giving Batista the win. It would ultimately lead to a triple threat match between them, wrapping up this year-long storyline that had seen all three men revolve around the World Heavyweight Championship. The Undertaker and Batista would go on to share the ring several more times, but this was the bulk of the rivalry. They competed in a fatal four-way match at the 2009 Bragging Rights, and a chairs match at the TLC event of that year. However, when people think of them, it's the initial 2007 story that springs to mind. It wasn't one that was littered with promos or crazy segments, and instead it was just two heavyweight main event stars who could be taken seriously in that role, which helped to make the rivalry one of the all-time greats due to the chemistry that they shared.